Without his offensive system for Joe Burrow's senior year, I just don't believe that Joe Burrow has the same year that he did. Today we're going to be talking about Joe Burrow. Now, before we dive into Joe Burrow and him as a prospect and some of his strengths and weaknesses, I do want to address a rumor regarding the Miami Dolphins. Now, it's come out recently that the Miami Dolphins are trying to potentially trade up to that number 1 overall pick, with which they will draft Joe Burrow. And I kind of want to just address that real quick and talk about it. During this time before the draft, you've got the about 2-week period, 3-week period right before the NFL draft, and that's when you're going to see the most draft rumors come out. And I guess what I'm trying to say is don't take these rumors too seriously now, because we really don't know what's going to happen. And I think even in some cases, even the GMs and head coaches don't even know what's going to happen. So now that we've gotten that all out of the way, I want to dive into Joe Burrow as a prospect. I kind of just want to talk about him because if there is a possibility that the Dolphins want to trade up to get that number 1 overall pick, I kind of want to dive into what I think about Joe Burrow as a prospect, if it would be smart to trade up for somebody like that, or if the Dolphins should just stay put. So we're going to go through this together. So what I want to do is look through the last 2 years of Joe Burrow's collegiate career. Joe Burrow has had his most opportunity to play on the football field the last 2 years at LSU. He's played the most games, he's taken the most snaps, he's thrown the most passes of his career. He just has the biggest sample size, I guess I should say, over the last couple of years at LSU. And I think if you analyze the last 2 years, that's going to give you the best idea of what Joe Burrow could bring to your team in the NFL if you draft him. All right, so what I want to do, guys, is I want to go ahead and compare Joe Burrow's junior year and senior year, and I want to kind of dive into what the reasoning for the huge jump between the two is. So what I think would be a good idea to do is we're going to go ahead and compare side by side those 2 years. I'll throw the stats up on the screen for you guys, and we'll go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so for Joe Burrow's junior year, we're looking at 2018. He played 13 games. Now, the 13th was the Fiesta Bowl against UCF. They did win the game. And Joe Burrow in the 2018 season passed for 2,894 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He threw for 7.6 yards per attempt, and then to round that all off, threw for a 57.8 percentage. Now, I am going to give Joe Burrow a bit of a pass in a way for his junior year in terms of production. The reason for that is that transition from conference to conference. So moving from the Big Ten to the SEC, all of the new things that he had to learn in order to step into that starting role at LSU. And then on top of that, having to face just the best talent in the NCAA week after week, for the most part, I think that is going to take a toll on the overall production of a player in his first year stepping into that system. So I do want to cut him a bit of slack for the junior season that he had. It wasn't, the most impressive performance, especially in some categories. The completion percentage was really down. At least to me, I would like it to be much higher than that. So you give a little bit of slack for the transition, but at the same time, it was a 13-game season, so there was time to, adjust and kind of get comfortable within the scheme and the coaching, kind of adjust to his new teammates and all that. So over the span of a 13-game season, I would like to see at least a higher completion percentage. I think that's something that, it might take a little bit to adjust to the scheme, but ultimately, the ball's still coming out of your hand, and it's your job to get it to the receiver and put it in a place that they can catch it. So the completion percentage, I think, is kind of what stands out most from that season. I'm gonna give him a break for the low passing yards and the low touchdown count, but that completion percentage, I think, is the one that stands out to me the most. The 57.8 completion percentage is really just not that good. I would like it to be much higher. And so all that considered, guys, let's go ahead and take a look now at Joe Burrow's senior year, and we'll compare the two. So for Joe Burrow's senior year, it was one of the greatest single seasons in NCAA history by any player, certainly the best by any quarterback that I've ever seen. So in 2019, Joe Burrow threw for 5,671 yards, which is ridiculous. That's so much. 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His average yards per attempt were 10.8. And then the completion percentage went, sky high. It went way, way up. He almost took a 20-point increase from last year to this year, going from 57.8 to now 76.3. So clearly, you guys can see this is a huge step up from junior year to senior year. Joe Burrow, it's almost like a completely different guy. And enter X Factor Joe Brady. Now, Joe Brady, the young stud coordinator who was with LSU, actually just took a position to be the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. Really, really phenomenal offensive mind. And when you talk about Joe Burrow, you're going to talk about Joe Brady. The two need to be connected. And the reason for that is without Joe Brady's scheme and without his offensive system for Joe Burrow's senior year, I just don't believe that Joe Burrow has the same year that he did. Now, when you look at, I mean, you could break down play after play at LSU and look at how open Joe Burrow's receivers were able to get, how well the plays developed, how everything came together just perfectly so many times. I don't think that was just by happenstance. I don't think that was luck. I think that had pretty much everything to do with the offensive coordination, with the way that the plays were drawn up, and the way that these guys were really drawn on the whiteboard to be in the right place at the right time every single play, and that has everything to do with Joe Brady. Now, Joe Brady is a hot commodity in the football world. He just took a job with the Carolina Panthers. Even after signing an extension with LSU, decided to go ahead and move on to the NFL, this time as a full-time offensive coordinator. And now Joe Burrow is slated to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft. So here's where the rubber meets the road, guys. The Miami Dolphins are rumored to try and trade up to that #1 overall spot with Cincinnati. And to be frank with you guys, I just think it's not a good idea. And here's why I don't think that it would be the ideal situation for Miami. Number one, there's a lot of question marks about Joe Burrow's offensive production. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from his senior season. It was one of the greatest seasons that you're ever going to find in college football history. But the big step up from his junior year to senior year, only so much of that can be accredited to hard work during the offseason. I don't think in a lot of cases that just working hard in the offseason is going to make you, triple your numbers from the year before without some help. And I think a lot of that came from Joe Brady. So there's a lot of question about, at least in my mind, there's a lot of question about Joe Burrow's production. Number two, what's it going to cost? I think it's going to at least cost us 2 first-round picks from this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it cost us another first next year, and probably some later round picks as well. So I guess the question to you guys is, would you be willing to give up all of that just to get a player who is, for all intents and purposes, a one-year wonder? So let me know down below, guys, and we'll talk about it. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Appreciate all the support. Like, comment, subscribe, help grow the channel. Definitely share the videos, and also hit that bell so that you know when I'm putting videos out. With the draft coming up, I'm going to be pumping out a lot of content to you guys, giving you plenty of analysis. I'm going to do a couple mock drafts coming up soon. So keep your eyes open, hit that bell, and can't wait to put some more content out for you guys. So thanks a ton for watching, guys. Enjoy your day, and as always, fins up.